Hello, 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 and welcome to another fantastic episode of My Orgasmic Life. And exciting news, this episode is brought to you by ticklelife, which is our new sponsor. All right, sex people. I'm your hostess, in case you don't know me. I'm your hostess with your mostess, Gaia Morrissette, and I'm a holistic sexual wellness specialist, a BDSM wellness specialist, and a pro-dominatrix, a high priestess of divine sexual magic and elemental magics. And today I want to talk to you about one of my major superpowers, which is I can tell why people do and say things. And this was inspired because one of my apprentices yesterday, actually, when I was doing some work with her, she asked me, she's like, how do you know this? Like, how do you know that when this is going to happen and that happens and this happens? Like, how do you know? And she's like, and teach me. And that's one of the things. Thank you, Katie, for my viewers that are listening the replay. Somebody, and you're actually listening instead of watching. Somebody was just talking about love in my shirt, sending me the love. All right, where was I? Oh, my superpower, being able to tell why people are going to do what they're going to do. So she asked me, like, how did you learn this? Like, how do you know this? And I realized that the reason that I got this superpower, so like most superpowers, in the comics, it's usually based out of tragedy that, you get this superpower. And mine wasn't any different, really, when you think about it. So when I was a little girl, I had to learn how it was a matter of life or death for my survival. I had to learn how to be able to read people to keep myself safe. So a little bit of backstory, if you don't know my story, which was as a child, I endured severe sexual abuse trauma as well as satanic ritual abuse. And so I was surrounded by predators and monsters all around me. And so what ended up happening, in order for me to be safe in the world and try to keep myself safe, I had to start to learn why people were going to do what they do. I had to start watching all the adults around me to keep myself safe. So this started to create some neural pathways in my brain of always taking in data. Everything somebody says, everything that their body language does, all of these key ingredients started to make it so that I could survive. Now, I grew up and I, created this really safe and wonderful world and life that I have, and did a lot of healing and a lot of work around that so that I could have this incredible life. But as I continued to grow, I then found the human brain and humans in general just really, really fascinating. So every interaction, every conversation that I had with every relationship I had, I was constantly gathering data so that I could add it to my repertoire of understanding and my superpower, improving my superpower of being able to see and hear and understand why people do and say what they do. The whys, the hows, and the whats. And so over my life, I'm turning 45 actually this weekend. Yay, happy birthday to me. And we'll have a conversation about my birthday celebrations next week of all the sexy adventures that I got up to. But so my point is that basically for 45 years, I've been honing this skill set. Now, if you're like, well, how do I learn how to do this? So the first thing is there's two components. One, you need to understand that everything you do and say has an ulterior motive behind it. There's a reason. The subconscious reason, there's the conscious reason and the subconscious reason. And the conscious reason is the logical reason that you know about. But the subconscious reason is all the things that you don't understand. And so if you understand and you start to learn that about yourself and diving deep into self-discovery, that's another piece. So the reason I can understand everybody else is because I'm constantly seeking out understanding of me. The second thing, if you want to have this super awesome superpower, is, and thank everybody for the loves, is that you want to find humans fascinating. Like, look at the people around you, every engagement, every interaction that you have. I want you to really drop into, well, they said this, but is that what they really meant? Their body language is doing this. Is that what they're, and the words that they're coming out, is that really what that's about? Start asking lots of questions of clarification. So, what does that mean when you say that? What does that mean? Why did you say that? Why did you do that? And out of curiosity, become this curiosity knowledge seeker. That's the second piece of the puzzle. And the third piece of the puzzle is to really start to have empathy and compassion. So move out of a place of judgment. So you're not running around being like, you're doing that because of this, and assumptions. So you got to let go of judgment and assumptions in every interaction, in every experience. Instead, you drop into that place of curiosity. I don't understand. Why? Tell me more. You're fascinating. It's fascinating. It's this wonderful place of curiosity and fascination instead of being like judgment and assumptions. Okay, so take a moment. So I want, that's that, if you want this superpower, and you want to make sure that you don't have to get this superpower out of trauma, let's just be clear about that, all right? Because trust me, that was not a fun way to get that superpower. You want to stop. Here's the recap, okay? 1, you want to start looking at why you do what you do. So if you say something, I want you to check in with yourself. Is that really what you're meaning when you say that? What is my body language doing right now when I'm having this emotional experience? When I'm behaving a certain way, what's the motivator behind that behavior? So that first piece is that self-awareness. The more self-aware you are, the easier it is for you to understand people around you and why they do what they do. The second piece is you need to be excited and turned on by the fact that people are fascinating. Everybody has a story. Everybody's intriguing. Everybody is unique in the way that their brain works. And it's like unlocking this secret mystery of the world, the universe. And each person is a key ingredient as a part of that unlocking. They're a puzzle piece that helps you to create the bigger puzzle of understanding of the human minds and human behavior and the human psychology, basically. Okay, so that's the second piece. And then the third piece, it's super, super important, and I'm going to recap this and why it's so important, is that you need to let go of judgment and assumptions and start to drop into that place of curiosity and fascination and inquisitiveness. And so when we are sitting in, and why this one's really important, when we sit in a place of judgment and assumptions, we are moving from our understanding of how we think things should be versus how allowing ourselves to gain data and information of how things actually are for that person. And while we're doing that, we actually aren't getting to know that person. We aren't actually getting to understand that person. We actually aren't having any connection to that person whatsoever. what we're doing is we're regurgitating and putting our own beliefs, our own ideologies, our own fears, our own expectations, all of these things onto somebody else. So beyond the fact that this is how you gain the superpower of being able to always understand the whys and the hows of people around you, the beautiful piece of that is that when we let go of that judgment and let go of that assumption, we actually allow ourselves to have freedom to be who we really want to be, to accept who we are, to allow the people around us to get to know who we are, and we get to really have deeper connections and deeper intimacy with other people. So even if you don't want the superpower of understanding the hows and the whys of human beings all around you, letting go of judgment and assumptions is just a good practice all the way around. All right. So that's how, so now that we talked about that, now what I want you to do is, okay, here's your one tool. I always like to leave you guys with one tool, all right? Or a thought. Is I want you to pick one person in your life that you get to see and interact with. And I want you to get to know them on a deeper level. So start to pay attention to, their facial expressions, their body language, when they say something, does it resonate with what they really mean? Ask them questions about, well, that's fascinating. Tell me more about why you think that way, or how you feel that way, or what that experience meant for you. Pick one person in your life and, get to really know them and observe them and start to understand what makes them tick, not just what they say, not just what they present, but underneath that. Because every one of us wears masks all the time. And when we are moving from that place of just in our place of having those masks up, one, we don't really understand then why people do what they do. And this is parts, that prevents us from making maybe relationship decisions that is best serve us. Okay, so that's number one. But also, two, it gives that person an opportunity to also start asking questions and getting to know why you do what you do. And in those interactions, there's this beautiful exchange that can happen, which is this deep knowing and this deep connection with another human being. And it helps you to mirror back again, self-discovery, self-awareness. So that's one thing. You can just start to observe and see that. If you really want to dive into that a little bit even deeper, I recommend you have a conversation with that person and say, hey, I'm wanting to increase my superpower of understanding people. Would you be willing to participate in this experiment with me? And they can also then ask you to get to know you better and understand and observe you, and then give you that feedback, and you to give them that feedback. Because there's a lot of times where some of the greatest insights have come from people that are really good at observing me and have pointed that out to me and said, oh, did you know that you do blah, blah, blah every time you do blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no, I didn't. I wasn't aware of that. Thanks for sharing. So there's a lot of potential connections that can happen in that. All right. Now, if you're like, I want to be able to do this and really do this, and I want to have that superpower so that it can help me in my career. I want to be a coach. I want to be a therapist. I want to work with other people. I want to be better at sales, all of these things. Then I highly recommend coming and hanging out with me so we can fine tune your skill sets. You can find me at succulentliving.com. For all of your sexual wellness needs, as well as all of your training needs. And you can find me at empressgaia.com for all your BDSM understanding and knowledge and experiences. And don't forget to follow me on all the social media platforms under Gaia Morrissette or Empress Gaia, or both. And of course, super important, Don't forget to listen to my podcast, My Orgasmic Life, can be found on all of your favorite platforms, podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all the places, iHeartRadio. And if you don't have a favorite, you can find my podcast episodes on my website, succulentliving.com. I'm Gaia Morrissette, and I'm super excited to hear about the next part of our adventure, whatever that's going to be. Who knows? It's always an adventure. And start observing others so that you too can have the superpower. Dun, da, da, da. Of knowing why and how and what is the reason why people do and say things. All right, I love you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. And until next time, stay sexy. If you're in Canada, stay warm. And don't forget to wiggle your butt. Mwah. Bye-bye. That's it. That's all.